My name is Jocelyn Tate, I'm 25 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is something I never thought I would survive. I've always been cautious online, or at least I thought. I never shared my address, never posted the names of places I visited until after I had already left, and always kept my social media profiles as private as possible. But somehow none of that mattered because danger has a way of finding you even when you think you're safe, and in my case, it wasn't just danger, it was obsession. For months I felt watched, followed, even when I was alone in my tiny apartment in the heart of the city, where the glow of neon lights from the bar across the street used to make me feel less lonely, but eventually only reminded me of how exposed I really was. It began small anonymous messages on my Instagram, comments on old photos that no one should have even been scrolling far enough to see, things like, "You look beautiful when you sleep," or "That red sweater is my favorite." At first I thought it was just another troll, a creep like so many others who crawled through the cracks of the internet, but when the messages began referencing things I hadn't posted online, like the book I was reading in bed that night, or the fact that I had left my window slightly open, it became clear that this wasn't just some stranger typing from miles away. This was someone close, someone who could see me. If you really want to know how it all happened, then stay with me till the very end, because my story will leave you speechless. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and remember, this story is written and edited by Dark Lifeside Diaries. It was the middle of January when the fear began twisting into paranoia. I started hearing footsteps in the hallway outside my apartment late at night, slow and deliberate, and though I pressed my ear to the door, I never heard anyone knock. One night, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing across the street beneath the broken streetlights, staring up at my window. The shape was too tall to be one of the neighborhood kids, too still to be someone just waiting for a ride, and when I blinked it was gone, leaving me to wonder if I had imagined it. But then the packages started showing up, brown boxes left at my door with no return address, always filled with something personal. A photograph of me walking home from work, a pair of earrings I had lost months ago and given up searching for, once even a half-burned candle that I recognized from my bedside table. My stomach twisted when I realized he had been inside. I went to the police, but they brushed me off, saying without proof or a name, there was nothing they could do. "It's probably someone you know," the officer said with a shrug, and though his words were casual, they chilled me to the bone, because deep down, I already knew he was right. The messages escalated after that. He began calling me by name, Jocelyn, and leaving notes under my door in neat, careful handwriting. "You're mine. No one else will ever understand you like I do. Don't even think about running." Sleep became impossible. I jumped at every sound, double-locked every door, and even shoved a chair under the knob at night, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was already inside. Sometimes I woke in the middle of the night to find things moved ever so slightly, the chair angled differently, a book I'd left closed now lying open, a strand of hair on my pillow that didn't match mine. My friends told me to get out to crash at someone's place, but part of me refused to run. I didn't want him to know he had won, that he could push me from my own life, so I stayed, hoping I could catch and expose him, make him pay, but he was always one step ahead. One night I came home to find the words "Beautiful Jocelyn" spray painted in red across my front door. My neighbors whispered about it, but no one saw who did it. Police came again, took photos, but still shrugged it off as vandalism. I was spiraling, living in constant fear, until one message finally broke me. It came through my email at 3:07 a.m., an address I didn't recognize, but the subject line was simple: "Wake up." Against my better judgment, I opened it, and there it was, a photo of me taken moments before lying in bed, my mouth slightly open, the glow of my nightstand lamp soft on my face. My blood ran cold. I whipped around, scanning my room, my closet, under my bed, but nothing, no one. Still, the camera angle was too close. It had been taken from inside the room. My hands shook as I called the police, begging them to come, but by the time they arrived, there was nothing, no camera, no intruder, just me, shaking and crying on the floor. They told me maybe it was a friend playing a prank, that I should calm down, but I knew he was inside my life in a way I couldn't escape. Desperation turned to obsession of my own. I began scouring my building's security cameras, bribing the doorman to let me see the footage, but whenever I looked for proof, it was gone, like someone had erased it. The only person who seemed to believe me was my neighbor across the hall, a sweet, quiet guy named Derek, who often offered to walk me home at night. He told me he had noticed someone hanging around the building too, a man in a dark hoodie loitering near the back entrance, but every time Derek tried to confront him, he vanished. I wanted to trust him, I really did. But the longer the stalking went on, the more I questioned everyone. My coworkers, my neighbors, even the barista at the cafe, who always smiled too wide when handing me my coffee. Anyone could be him, everyone was suspicious, then came the night. Heard breathing in my apartment. I had just stepped out of the shower, steam clouding the mirror when I froze, every hair on my body standing on end. It wasn't my breath, it was deeper, slower, coming from somewhere behind me. My hand shook as I wiped the mirror with my palm, and for just a second in the fogged glass, I saw a figure standing in the corner of the bathroom. Tall, looming, faceless in the blur. I spun around, scissors clutched in my hand, but the room was empty. Empty except for a single piece of folded paper lying on the sink. With trembling hands, I opened it. In neat handwriting, it read, "I like you wet." My scream echoed through the apartment as I ran slipping on the damp tiles, fumbling to call 911, but by the time the police arrived, the note was gone. They didn't believe me. They never believed me, but that night lying in bed with every light blazing, I swore I saw him again, standing just beyond my window on the fire escape, watching, waiting, a shadow too real to be imagined. And when I blinked, he lifted his hand and slowly traced a heart against the glass before disappearing into the dark. After that night, when I saw the heart traced on my window, I knew there was no going back to normal life because the line between paranoia and reality had already been shattered, and my instincts screamed that if I didn't act soon, I wouldn't survive. But what terrified me most was how much deeper this game seemed to be going, as though my stalker was enjoying my fear feeding on it, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal himself. The next few days passed in a haze, every shadow stretched too long, every sound too sharp, and I barely slept, barely ate, barely lived. But one thing became clear: whoever this was, they weren't just watching me, they were in control, erasing security footage, slipping into my apartment, leaving behind taunts like breadcrumbs. I started making lists of everyone in my life, from my coworkers to my neighbors, even Derek across the hall, who had been kind, maybe too kind, always checking on me, always offering help. But I began to wonder, what if his concern was really part of the plan? What if he had been playing the long game, pretending to protect me while being the one tormenting me all along? I tried to dismiss the thought, but trust was poison now, and everyone was a suspect. My breaking point came one night when I received a message from an unknown number. It wasn't a text, it was a video. My breath caught as I pressed play, and there I was on the screen, sitting at my desk in my apartment, typing on my laptop, unaware that I was being filmed from just a few feet away. My chest tightened as I realized the angle was from my bedroom closet, the very closet where I kept thinking someone might be hiding, the one the police swore they checked thoroughly. My hands shook violently as I slammed the closet door shut, threw a chair against it, and sobbed until my throat burned. But when I dared to look again, there was nothing inside, just clothes and boxes. Yet I knew he had been there, close enough to smell the shampoo in my hair. The next day, my boss pulled me aside at work, saying someone had been calling the office asking about me, pretending to be my boyfriend, demanding my schedule, and though the receptionist had refused the idea that he was now infiltrating my professional life, left me sick, I quit my job on the spot, unable to risk it. And when I returned home, another package was waiting for me, but this one was worse than anything before. It was a doll, porcelain, with my face printed on it, my actual face. He had taken one of my photos, stretched it, and pasted it onto the doll's head, its glassy eyes staring at me with a cracked smile. My knees gave out as I dropped it to the floor, but inside the box was something even more sinister, a note that read, "You don't need your job. I'll take care of you forever." I wanted to burn it, to scream, to flee, but part of me, the darker part, was beginning to simmer with rage. He thought I was weak, that I would crumble, but maybe I could turn his game against him. I began documenting everything, every note, every message, every package, keeping them hidden in a locked drawer, evidence for the day I would finally expose him. But the more I collected, the more it felt like he wanted me to. It was as though he was writing a story too, and I was the unwilling protagonist. Derek noticed my unraveling state and insisted I come to his apartment to feel safer. His place was neat, warm, lined with bookshelves and old records, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself relax, sipping tea while he talked about his sister in another state, how he understood what fear felt like, how he hated that I was going through this alone. His voice was soothing, his eyes sincere, and I almost believed him. But then I saw it on his coffee table under a stack of magazines was a familiar pen, the same brand and ink color as the notes that had been left in my apartment. My pulse spiked as I excused myself, hurried back to my own place, and locked the door. Was it paranoia, or had I just found the truth? My phone buzzed that night, another message. "He isn't who you think he is." The sender was the same anonymous account that had tormented me for weeks. But now the words twisted everything. Was my stalker warning me about Derek, or was Derek trying to make me doubt everyone else? My mind spun until I couldn't trust my own thoughts, but the Following morning, the answer came in the cruelest way. I woke to find a new package, but this one wasn't left at the door. It was on my pillow inches from my face. As I slept inside was a lock of hair tied with a red ribbon and a photograph of me lying in Derek's apartment, asleep on his couch, his shadow hovering over me. My scream tore through the walls, but no one came. I confronted Derek that night, pounding on his door, demanding answers, but he looked genuinely horrified, swearing he never took the photo, never touched my hair, that he was being framed. His fear seemed real, but then why did he always appear at the right moments? Why did he have that pen? Why was I never safe? That night, my rage overtook my fear. I decided to set a trap. I left my apartment door, unlocked a bait for whoever had been sneaking in, and hid in the dark with a knife clutched in my hands. My breath shallow, my heartbeat loud in my ears. Hours passed, the silence suffocating, until finally the door creaked open. A shadow slipped inside, tall, deliberate, moving with terrifying confidence. I steadied my hand, ready to strike, but when the figure stepped into the glow of the streetlight, my blood froze. It wasn't Derek, it wasn't anyone I recognized. It was a stranger, his face obscured by a hood, his gloved hand holding a camera, and he whispered my name with a familiarity that turned my blood to ice. Jocelyn. I lunged knife first, but he vanished into the darkness of my apartment like smoke. And by the time I flicked on the lights, he was gone, leaving behind only the faint sound of laughter and a new note on my table. Getting closer after that night, when I came face to face with the hooded stranger in my own apartment, the world around me no longer felt real, as if I had stepped into someone else's nightmare and couldn't find the exit. And though every instinct told me to run, to leave town, to disappear, I couldn't, because there was something stronger than fear boiling inside me now. Rage, the kind of rage that twists your stomach and sharpens your senses until you're ready to fight fire with fire. I didn't sleep for 2 nights, pacing the apartment, checking locks, gripping the knife I had nearly plunged into his chest. And each time I closed my eyes, I replayed the way he whispered my name, the way he melted into the shadows like he belonged in them, like he had been rehearsing that exact moment. The police were useless. When I called, they filed a report, nodded sympathetically, and left, but without fingerprints, without proof beyond my trembling voice. They could do nothing, and I was tired of being dismissed, tired of being told to stay calm when calmness had already cost me my sanity. The next morning, another package arrived, this one smaller, wrapped in plain brown paper with no return address, and inside was a memory card with a sticky note. Watch me. My hand shook as I slotted it into my laptop, and my stomach dropped when I saw the footage. It was me sleeping in my own bed, filmed from the ceiling corner like he had mounted a hidden camera. The video wasn't just one night. It was weeks, maybe months, sped up, showing every time I tossed, turned, got up for water, whispered to myself in fear, and at the end the screen froze on a still image, me lying on my side, unaware, while a figure stood in the corner of the room, watching, motionless, always there. I ripped my room apart, tearing at the ceiling, the vents, the walls, but I found nothing. And that made it worse, because if I couldn't find the cameras, that meant he could still see me, could be watching me at that very second. I moved into the bathroom, the only room with no vents, no windows, dragging my mattress inside like some trapped animal building a den, but even there the silence was too heavy, too knowing, and I swore I could hear breathing through the pipes. I thought about Derek, about whether I should trust him, but paranoia ruled me now, and even when he knocked on my door, begging me to let him in, I stayed silent, watching him from the peephole, wondering if the stranger had sent him too, if this was just another layer of the game. Then the text started again, this time not from the anonymous number, but from my mother's phone. Messages like, "Sweetheart, why aren't you answering me?" Followed by a photo of her house taken from outside the curtains, glowing with lamplight, the unmistakable porch where I had spent summers as a child. My heart stopped as I called her. And when she picked up, she was groggy, confused, telling me she had been asleep all evening and never sent those messages, but her voice trembled when I begged her to check the windows, the locks, to stay on the line while she walked through the house. That was when the line went silent, a click and then static, followed by a voice that wasn't hers, low and steady. "You can't protect her either." My scream echoed through the apartment as I hurled the phone against the wall, shattering it, but that didn't erase the voice, the way it wrapped around me like a noose, pulling tighter with every second. By now I knew I couldn't outlast him by hiding. I had to outsmart him, had to become what he thought I wasn't. I bought cheap cameras, hidden once, placing them around my apartment and outside the building, and for days I recorded everything, staying awake, waiting, pretending to be careless, leaving the window cracked, the door unlocked, but what I caught was worse than anything I imagined. Reviewing the footage, I saw him night after night slipping into my apartment with the silence of a ghost standing over me, sometimes sitting in the chair beside my bed for hours, sometimes brushing his hand through my hair while I slept, his face always hidden by the hood, his movements deliberate, calm, as though he knew the cameras were there and was performing for me. The final clip nearly broke me. It showed him holding my own knife, the one I slept with, under my pillow, tilting it toward my neck before placing it back, as though reminding me that my safety was an illusion, that he could kill me any time he wanted but chose not to because fear was the greater prize. My rage hardened into something sharp that night. I wasn't just going to survive, I was going to end this. I stopped answering Derek's knocks, stopped pretending to be the scared girl he wanted me to be, and instead, I started planning, tracing every detail of the stalker's behavior, every hour he appeared, every sound he made, even the faint smell of tobacco that lingered after he left. And the more I pieced it together, the more I realized he wasn't just some random stranger. He knew things about me no one else could know, things I hadn't posted online, things buried deep in the corners of my life. The question burned in me. Had he been in my life all along, hidden in plain sight? Then came the breaking point. I woke one night to find my mattress drenched, soaked through with something sticky, metallic. And when I flicked on the light, my blood curdled. It was blood splattered across the walls, pooling on the floor, and carved into the wall above me were the words, "We are already one." I screamed until my voice shredded, clawing at the walls, and when I turned there, he was in the doorway, hood down, face visible for the first time, and what I saw made my knees buckle. It wasn't Derek, it wasn't anyone I could name, but it was familiar, a face I had seen before in the reflection of windows, in the background of photos and the blurred edges of my memory, a face that had been haunting me for far longer than I realized. He smiled, calm, like this was always inevitable, and whispered, "You finally see me." Then the lights flickered, went out, and when they came back, he was gone, leaving behind only the knife from my bedside, now buried in the center of my mattress. I barely remember how long I stood there, staring at the knife lodged in my mattress, the words, "We are already one," bleeding into my brain. But something in me snapped that night, and instead of trembling like prey, I began to think like the predator he believed himself to be, because if this was the game he wanted, then I was done playing by his rules. It was time to write my own. For days I vanished online, deleted my social media, powered off my phone, and pretended to vanish, but secretly I dug deeper into my own memories, my own files, old yearbooks, old photos, anything that might explain why his face was both strange and familiar, until finally I saw him, a blurry kid in the background of my middle school class photo, half-hidden eyes boring into me, a name scrawled under his chin. Nathaniel Kerr. The name struck me like ice water. I remembered him faintly, a quiet boy who always sat alone, never speaking, always staring, until one day he just wasn't there anymore. Rumors swirling that he had moved away after his mother died, but I never thought of him again until now. I realized in horror that he had been watching me since we were children, and every interaction, every encounter online, every post, every move had been feeding the obsession he nurtured for more than a decade. Knowing his name gave me power, but it also made him more dangerous, because Nathaniel wasn't just some faceless nightmare. He was a man who had built his entire life around me. I set my trap carefully, whispering to Derek and passing about how I was moving out, leaving the apartment unlocked, staging my things as if packed hastily, making it appear like I'd fled in panic. But instead of leaving, I stayed, cameras ready, knife sharpened, heart drumming like a war cry. It didn't take long that night. The door creaked open, and Nathaniel slipped inside, hood drawn, movements careful, almost tender, like he was entering a lover's room. He walked straight to my bed, leaned over the mattress I had soaked with fake blood earlier, and whispered, "You'll never leave me." That was when I sprang, slamming into him with every ounce of rage I'd stored, driving the knife into his shoulder. His scream tore through the apartment as he crashed to the floor, but even bleeding, he smiled, whispering, "Now you're mine forever." The fight was brutal, blood smearing the walls, his strength monstrous, fueled by obsession, but my fury was greater. I plunged the knife again and again until his body finally stilled, the smile frozen grotesquely on his lips. But killing him didn't end it, because as I staggered back, shaking, I realized his phone was buzzing in his pocket, dozens of notifications flashing across the screen, usernames I didn't recognize, messages like, "Is it done? When do we see her? She belongs to all of us now." My stomach dropped as I scrolled, discovering chat rooms, dark corners of the web where Nathaniel had been posting about me for years, live streaming me without my knowledge, sharing my photos, my location, my life, with a hidden community of watchers who worshipped him as their leader. Killing him hadn't destroyed the obsession, it had multiplied it, spread it like a virus across countless faceless strangers who now believed I was theirs. And then the final message appeared, posted seconds Earlier from another account, don't worry Jocelyn, I'm closer than you think. My blood froze as I looked up at the shattered window, the flicker of movement. In the alley outside, and for the first time I understood the truth. Nathaniel was never the end, he was only the beginning, and the stalker wasn't one man at all. It was an army, a cult, and they would never stop.